Okay, welcome everybody to the final virtual rules seminar of our 2022 season here. Tonight we're going to be talking all things pitching and batting out of order. A couple announcements, reminders, things like that. We got a new YouTube channel going on. It is Central
We're gonna do a
Region
bunch on the Ukraine.
Umpire Development, Central Region Umpire Training and Development. Basically, we're going to have all of our virtual rule seminar replays posted in a playlist there, the 2022 Central Region Rule Seminar. So that's where you can find all of the replays of all the seminars we've done so far. So you're going to find them on that playlist. A couple ground rules here for our meetings. Please stay muted. That will help us keep the audio nice and clean and easy for everybody to hear. We're going to do Q&A through the chat. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it in the chat. If you don't want to ask it to the general population, go ahead and direct it to me or Michelle or DJ Rose also here, and we'll get those filtered. No general comments. We don't want to use that to just kind of chat with each other. So that way we can filter the questions easier and get them answered. We're going to go for about 2 hours tonight, and then we're going to take a break in between some segments. So we'll break for about 5 minutes in the middle of the seminar, and then we'll come back and finish up. So we have a couple of upcoming umpire training opportunities that you can umpire via the umpire registry. So DJ, if you're here, you can go ahead and start dropping your links in the chat. So the virtual umpires preparation course, it's a 5-week online prereq for the Umpire Academy. We've changed that to free in the past week. So before it was $50, and it was a 5-week virtual kind of at your own pace thing. And we decided to change that to make it free. So this is free to anybody now, and that is coming up very, very soon. So make sure you get on the umpire registry and register for that if you want to be in on that. And then that will segue into our Central Region Umpire Academy, which is the 21st through the 24th of April. That's going to be in person, and the cost for that is $300, and that's going to get you, I believe, room and board, as well as 3 to 4 days of great instruction, and it's going to get you some meals. So it's an absolute steal. If you're available, I highly suggest you take advantage of that. And again, if you register for the Umpire Academy, you are required to go through the virtual prep course as a prerequisite. So you'll get both of those. Fantastic training opportunities. DJ's dropping all those links in the chat. So go there and register. It's going to be a great time, and some really, really, really good information coming out on that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into our presentation for the night. So first thing we're going to talk about is baseball pitching regulations. So this is kind of the boring stuff of, the rule book, but it's stuff that we need to know. So first thing we're going to talk about is Regulation 6. So Regulation 6 is where you're going to find all of your pitching rules, whether it be baseball or softball. We're going to talk the baseball side tonight, right now. So first thing you need to know about baseball pitching rules is all these thresholds. So basically what you have here is your league age on the left, and then the maximum number of pitches that they can throw.
Hey, Seth.
Yeah.
Real quick, can you share your screen with us?
Am I not sharing?
I don't have it.
I'm not sharing. Good boy. There we go. All right. That should be better. I don't know why it wasn't sharing. Don't know why I wasn't sharing. All right, here we go. All right, Regulation 6. So basically on the left here, you have your league ages for your players. And then on the right, you have your maximum number of pitches that they can throw in a day. So league age 6 to 8 can only throw 50, 9 to 10, 75, 11 and 12-year-olds can throw 85, and 13 to 16-year-olds can throw 95 pitches in a day. So again, those are the maximum numbers that they can throw. So here is basically the threshold rule, meaning when they come out. So they can continue to pitch when they reach a threshold or the threshold being the maximum number or some other numbers that we'll talk about here in a little bit. They can continue to pitch until the batter they're pitching to reaches base. The batter they're pitching to is put out. The third out is made to complete the half inning. Or new this year, this is the rule change. And again, we were kind of already doing this, but we made it official this year. The pitcher is removed from the mound prior to completing that at bat. So if any of these conditions is met, the pitcher can continue to pitch until one of these conditions is met. More thresholds. So the league gauges have different thresholds within their pitching limits. So pitchers age 14 and under, you have to adhere to these limits. So if they throw 66 or more pitches, they're required to observe 4 calendar days of rest. 51 to 65 is 3 calendar days. 36 to 50 is 2 calendar days. 21 to 35 is 1. And then 1 to 20 is 0 calendar days of rest. So if they hit one of these, there we go. If they hit one of these numbers during their time pitching, they will be required to observe this number of days of rest. And again, these, just like we talked about on the previous slide, if they reach one of these pitch limits during a batter, they can continue to pitch until one of those conditions is met. 15 and 16-year-olds is basically the same thing, but everything's increased by 10. So if you look here, they're 1 to 30 instead of 1 to 20, 31 to 45, 46 to 60, 61 to 75, and 76 plus. So basically the same pattern, just everything is increased by 10. So same days of rest, same number of thresholds, things like that. And then the same conditions are applicable too. So if they reach one of these thresholds while facing a batter, they can continue to throw until one of those conditions is met. Couple odds and ends of the regulation. So these are the kind of things that don't fit directly into the pitching thresholds. Does somebody have something?
Yeah, I just got a private here. Please address something persistent in a specific area in the region. Some believe the manager must request or announce that the threshold for it to be honored. Is that a thing?
Yeah, that is not true. So the manager doesn't have to declare that they're going to threshold there. It just automatically happens. So if we go back a slide, I don't know how I can't go back a slide. That's okay. So if they hit one of those limits, say they hit 20 pitches, 21 pitches, and then finish the batter, they're automatically thresholded at 20 and can go from there. Okay, so a couple odds and ends. Regulation 6A discusses the interaction between catching and pitching. There we go. Discusses the interaction between pitching and catching. So if you've caught more than 4 innings in a game, you're not eligible to pitch on that calendar day. So if you've caught 4 or more, and that there's no number there. If you catch 1 pitch in the 4th inning, by rule you have caught 4 innings. So not eligible to pitch on that calendar day. If there is a catcher who catches 3 innings or less and moves to pitcher, and then they throw 21 or more pitches, they cannot return to catch in that calendar day. And then notice I have 15 and 16, 31 in parentheses. That's for 15 and 16-year-olds. That number is 31, not 21. So 15 and 16-year-olds, if they catch 3 or less and then move to pitcher and deliver 31 pitches or more, they cannot return to catch in that calendar day. And notice that's a calendar day, not game. There's some loopholes in here as a coach that you can take advantage of. Basically, you can have a player catch 3 innings, put them in to pitch 31 pitches, and then you can have them go back and finish pitching. They will be good to do that. After that, they will not be able to catch again, obviously, but odds and ends there with the catcher. Regulation 6B, a pitcher once removed as pitcher cannot return to the mound to pitch. So once you've been removed from the mound, you can no longer go back to the mound and be eligible to pitch for the rest of that game. The exception here is in the intermediate, junior, and senior leagues. If that player who is pitching remained in the game defensively at any other position, they can return as pitcher in the game, but only once. So if I, have a starting pitcher, I'm throwing him, we jump out to a, 8-0 lead or so, I can take him off the mound, put him out in right field or at first base or something. And then, later on in the game, if the other team decides to come back and I need to bring that player back in to pitch again, then I can do that as long as they've remained in the defensive field. Once they've come out of the defensive field, they are no longer eligible to return it as pitcher. And you can only do that once per game, per player. Regulation 6C, the note. So if a pitcher reaches 40 or more pitches while facing a batter, the pitcher can continue to pitch and maintain their eligibility to catch until one of the conditions that we talked about, batter getting out, reaching base, the third out is made, or the pitcher is removed, is met. What this is saying is this is no longer a hard limit as it used to be. So in previous years, this was basically a hard stop. So there was no threshold with this. So if they threw 41 pitches, they would not reset back on the threshold to be eligible to catch. Now they can do that. So if they hit 40 pitches while facing that batter, they can continue to pitch until one of those conditions is made. Then they can be removed and they will threshold there at 40, which means they would be eligible to catch for that in that game. And then regulation 6D, this is for all divisions of baseball. Under no circumstances shall a player pitch in 3 consecutive days. So if I throw Monday, Tuesday, I cannot throw Wednesday. Doesn't matter how many pitches I threw. If I threw, 20, I cannot pitch. So if your plan is to throw them 20 on Monday, throw them 20 on Tuesday, and then let them go crazy on Thursday or Wednesday, you can't do that. So it's better to just, let them ride on Tuesday because they can't pitch Wednesday anyway. A couple more things. So on pitching in more than one game in a day, there are some rules with this. Minor league, major league, and intermediate league, a pitcher may not pitch in more than one game a day. That's a hard no. You just can't do it. In the junior and senior league, a player may pitch in 2 games per day, provided that they remain at 30 or less pitches in the first game. And that is a threshold. So again, if they can finish the batter once they hit 30 pitches, and they will reset back to 30. If that pitcher returns to pitch in the second game, they start their pitch count from where they left off in the first game. So if I'm a pitcher, I throw 35 pitches in game 1 and threshold 30, I can come back into game 2 and I will start on pitch 36. Okay. Once they continue, they won't continue from that threshold they hit. They will continue from where they left off that pitch count. So it's important to keep both their threshold number as well as their actual number, because if they do come back to pitch, you'll start from that actual number. The exception here is if you have a 12-year-old playing in the junior division, they cannot pitch in 2 games in a day. So that's a league age thing. Basically only 13 to 16-year-olds can do it, and they can only do that if they're playing in the junior and senior divisions. Before we go into more pitching stuff, do we have any questions on pitching regulations, or are we all clean there? I'm going to take that as we are good to go. And then I will turn it over to Rick and or Jamie, and we will go over some illegal pitches.
All right, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties here. First thing we're going to talk about here is illegal pitch on the baseball side. The main things we're going to talk about illegal pitch wise is going to be covered on the smaller diamond, and then Jamie will talk about balks, which we're gonna obviously talk, which is gonna be from 50, 70 and up. Under Rule 2.0, what is an illegal pitch? Basically, definition from the rule book. It's going to be a pitch delivered to a batter when the pitcher does not have the pivot foot in contact with the pitcher's plate, or ultimately a quick pitch, which is going to be in the judgment of the umpire. And like I just stated above or before, intermediate 50, 70, junior or senior baseball, an illegal pitch with runners on base is going to constitute as a balk. And Jamie will cover that later on here. And for the purpose of maintaining a pitch count, an illegal pitch is going to count as a pitch thrown. So if there is an illegal pitch, we are going to count that pitch on the pitcher and go from there. Examples of illegal pitches, we're going to go over a couple pitches here, scenarios here. If you guys want to look at all the scenarios, it's going to be under 805 in the rule book. Ultimately, the pitcher, while touching the plate, makes any motion naturally associated with the pitch and fails to make such delivery. Next one's going to be the pitcher makes a quick pitch. That's going to be in the judgment of the umpire. Umpire's going to judge that quick pitch that is one delivered before the batter is reasonably set. Pitcher delivers the ball without facing the batter. The pitcher makes a motion naturally associated with the pitch while not in contact with the pitcher's plate. And the pitcher, while giving an intentional base on balls, pitches when the catcher is outside the catcher's box. That's going to be an illegal pitch as well. Penalties for an illegal pitch: the ball is going to be dead unless if we have an illegal pitch and the ball is put in play, we are going to keep that ball live. And Seth, if you could do we're going to keep that ball live and see what the outcome of the play is going to be. If there is something where the manager wants to keep the constitute of the legal pitch or the play, they must let you know right away. The election must come immediately right after the play. If the batter hits the ball and reaches safely and all runners advance one base from where they originally started, the play that happened during the illegal pitch is going to supersede the illegal pitch. And like I stated before, any pitch that is called an illegal pitch is going to be charged to the pitch count. We're going to look at a video here. Seth, go ahead and keep rolling, even if it ends. So we got the pitcher here, coming set, comes up and doesn't make the pitch. Our home plate umpire comes out, calls that's an illegal pitch. This happens to be ball 4. As note here, our umpire is going to take the spotlight here and use proper use of eyes, waits for it, calls that's an illegal pitch. Little nitpick here, we might want to come up as in time, that's an illegal pitch. 1 ball on the batter to the scorekeeper or anyone that's keeping official score. And then since this is ball 4, we're going to award bases as a base on ball. Next video here, it's going to be a similar scenario. Pitcher comes up, starts his motion, doesn't complete it. Home plate umpire gets him with an illegal pitch. That's an illegal pitch. Time, that's an illegal pitch. Ball on the batter, and we're going to move forward. The thing is, if you have a pitch, like I stated before, if you have a pitch that the pitcher happens to continue going, say you want to grab it for a quick pitch, you can the proper mechanic, we're going to say that's an illegal pitch, but we're going to keep that pitch going. So you're going to say that's an illegal pitch, let the pitch happen. If it goes through and the catcher catches it, time, that's an illegal pitch. 1 ball on the batter. Or if the ball comes through, ball goes into play, you still got an illegal pitch, but we're still going to constitute that as a delayed dead ball and then let the play happen and go from there.
Restaurant called
And
McDonald's.
then I'll hand it over to Jamie here that's going to talk about balks.
Before we go to balks, do we have any questions on illegal pitches? Nope. All right. All you, Jamie.
Good evening, everybody.
There's a question there,
The-
Seth.
Oh, yeah, there is.
It just came through.
Oh, I see. I see what they're asking.
Yeah, go for it.
So the question was about hybrid stances. Basically what the hybrid stance is where you have a pitcher that is sort of in both stances at the same time. So, and we didn't go over exactly what constitutes the legal pitching positions. There's two of them. There's the windup and the set. Basically, the windup is you have both feet intersecting the front line of the pitcher's plate, and your shoulders are square to the batter. Whereas in the set position, you have 1 foot intersecting the front edge of the pitcher's plate, and your shoulders are perpendicular to the batter. The hybrid stance is basically your meeting criteria of both the windup and the set. So you're not in one and you're in both at the same time. As far as I know, and instructor staff, please jump in on this too. It's illegal in Little League as far as the definitions are concerned. So we want to make sure we're correcting those things. If you see it in the regular season, again, try to correct it. Make sure they understand. And likewise, if you have to call it, you have to call it. When Jamie talks about box, he's gonna kind of hint at what I'm getting at here. So I'll let him take care of that. But yeah, as far as I know, the hybrid pitching positions are not legal in Little League baseball. Instructor staff, if I'm incorrect in that, please let me know and correct me now.
It's, as far as I know, Seth, it is that way in Little League as in school ball and every place else. It's no different.
Okay.
You have to declare either in a set position or a wind up or a stretch or set,
Okay.
excuse me. So
Do we have another question come in, DJ?
Majors below with a runner on, no runners advanced on an illegal pitch. Is that correct?
Rick, I'll let you handle that one since you just covered them.
So illegal pitches and majors and below it, runners do not advance. It's just going to be a ball on the batter. 50, 70 and above, Jamie's going to talk about in box, and then on the softball side, Shelly and Greg are going to talk about that moving forward. But in ways of Little League baseball and below, no runners advance. Same thing with softball.
Nailed it. If that's everything, Jamie, it's all you for box.
okay, again, the definition in Rule 2 of a balk. Balk is an illegal act by the pitcher with a runner or runners on base, entitling all runners to advance one base. Again, like Rick said earlier, and we've talked numerous times already tonight, that's for intermediate and above. We don't call balks in majors and below. At that point in time, it would be an illegal pitch. Some guiding principles. Because I don't have any video, I'll make reference later on to, we can use Rick's videos and just apply that would be if it was the intermediate and above, that we would issue a balk instead of an illegal pitch. So with my couple of guiding principles I have for you tonight, one will be in a windup, and then the second one will be from the stretch position. And a guiding principle from the windup is disengage the pitcher's plate. In disengaging the pitcher's plate, the pitcher must step off with the pivot foot first and not the free foot first. What that is saying is that left-handed pitcher has to step first with his left foot. Right-handed pitcher has to step first with the right foot. At that point in time, it makes them an infielder, and they can do anything that an infielder is entitled to with the ball at that point in time. Again, the pitcher may not go into a set or stretch position. If they do from that, it's a balk. Guiding principle for from the stretch position, at any time during the pitcher's preliminary movements and until the natural pitching motion commits the pitcher to the pitch, the pitcher may not throw to any base provided the pitcher may throw to any base provided the pitcher steps directly toward the base before making the throw. Again, they have the ability to, until they commit to the pitch, they can make a move towards any base to pick a runner or runners off. The thing that you have to, and again, this is proper use of eyes at this point in time. We really want to make sure that the pitcher shall step ahead of the throw. A snap throw followed by the step toward the base is a ball. Again, you have to throw the ball, you have to step followed by the ball going to that base. You can't throw the ball and then step chasing it. Is the way I look at it when I'm looking for that. Is you can't chase the ball with the step. You have to step first and the ball will then follow that step. The one thing to keep in mind, the two things to keep in mind when we're looking at this is distance and direction. You know, we talk about direction when it says you have to step towards the base, and distance, you have to gain distance towards that base. You can't just turn around and basically put your foot down. And where that comes into is when with the right-handed pitcher, most of the time going to first base, is to try and come up in the air and throw, and their foot basically comes right back down where they started from. Did they have direction? Yes, because they turned their hips to get the ball, or they're not going to throw over their left shoulder. They're going to have to rotate their hips to get them to deliver that ball to the first baseman. But at the same time, they have to gain distance towards that base, if that makes sense to everybody. Okay, Seth. Penalties for balks. The ball is dead and each runner should advance one base without liability to be put out unless the batter reaches first base on a hit, an error, base on balls, hit batter, or otherwise. And all other runners advance at least one base, in which case the play proceeds without reference to a balk. The key point here, everybody, is that the last statement, that at least, all other runners advance at least one base, in which case the play proceeds without reference. So if you have a runner that's not going to be forced, they don't advance, then the balk is in effect, because everybody has to advance at least one base. When a balk is called, if the pitch is delivered, a pitch shall be charged against the pitch count, regardless of whether the batter put the pitch in play. However, on a balk that is called on a pickoff attempt, or in an instance that the pitcher does not deliver the pitch, no pitch shall be charged to the pitch count. A little bit different than an illegal pitch that Rick talked about earlier, that if we have an illegal pitch, it still goes against the pitch count. Whereas here, if they don't deliver the ball, or they take a pickoff attempt, because it's not a legally pitched ball to the plate, it's not going to be charged against their pitch count. Exactly. Okay. Again, keep this in mind, that the umpire should bear in mind that the purpose of a balk rule is to prevent the pitcher from deliberately deceiving the base runner. If there is doubt in the umpire's mind, the intent of the pitcher should govern. However, certain specifics should be borne in mind. And really what this is, everybody, is what is the intent of the rule? That it's to try and deceive a base runner or runners. So sometimes, you have to take that into consideration. Now, are we going to say that we're going to disregard the balk rule? No, but again, we talk about it all the time. We want to officiate to the level of our competition, or our competitors, I should say, excuse me. So we know that at the intermediate level, these young kids have just come from the majors, where they really have the ability to do things that are a little bit different. You see them half wind up, half stretch. Things happen that they're still trying to get used to. Plus, they're throwing at a longer distance. So sometimes you have to take those type of things into consideration. One thing that would definitely throw a red flag up is straddling the pitcher's plate without the ball is to be interpreted as an intent to deceive and ruled a balk. With that, where that's going to really come into play is that, keeping in mind, and let me digress here for 1 second. We'll get real deep into Rule 8 pitchers in the online preparation course starting next week. So I don't want to go real deep into Rule 8 right now with all this, but really what this is saying is that, remember, the pitcher has to be in contact with the pitcher's plate to take a sign from the catcher or from the dugout, but they still have to be engaged on the pitcher's plate. What you don't want to see is them straddle the pitcher's plate, take the sign, and then step onto the pitcher's plate. Again, balk. Okay, Seth.
Jamie, does Little League have a 45-degree rule?
It's the way I interpret the rule book. It says that you have to step towards the base. So it's really what we're talking about is first base. You'll hear some umpires talk about 45 degrees is half the distance down the base line from first base to home. So if you're using a 90-foot, and the runner's lane starts at the halfway point, so it's at 45 feet on a 90-foot base, and 30 feet and we're not going to worry about the small bases. Excuse me. This is strictly for 50, 70, and 90 foot. They say that they have to, their free foot has to land on one side or the other to determine whether it is 45 degrees or not. I'm going to say don't pick boogers. Unless they step directly at home plate and try to throw against all their natural movement of their body, and again, it's got to jump out at you. It really does. If it's that close, don't nitpick. But the rule doesn't. There's nothing in the rule book or the mechanic book that talks about 45 degrees.
Yeah, my general rule of thumb as an umpire is, if the pitcher fools me, then it's probably a balk. If they don't fool me, then I'm going to look at it, with a different kind of lens, and maybe it still could be. But if they fool me, it's definitely a balk, because that means I was expecting one thing. Oh, they're stepping towards the plate. I'm expecting a pitch here, and then they threw to first base. No, that's a balk. Or vice versa. If I'm on first base, or if I'm looking for a pickoff at first base and they throw home, nope, that's a balk. So, as an umpire, that's a rule of thumb you can use. If they fool you, it's probably illegal.
Okay, this would be something that we would look at as not being a balk. With the runner on first base and the runners attempting to steal second, the pitcher may make a complete turn without hesitating towards first and throw to second. This is not to be interpreted as throwing to an unoccupied base. Again, it's like Seth just said, if it, you know, if it looks bad, it probably is bad, but don't automatically in your mind think that second base, because you turned right completely around and threw the ball to second base, that it wasn't a there wasn't a runner on that base. It's a continuation of a play to make an out is what it amounts to.
A question here in the chat: wasn't a ball in Little League once a live ball and not automatically dead? It still is a.
It's still a live ball. Yep. Yeah. It's, if they put the ball in play, it stays alive. But if they don't, then, and that, it was confusing when I read it too, because the very first statement says the ball is dead. But then the next paragraph, it talks about if the batter puts the ball in play and everybody moves up a base, blah, 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 blah. So yes, it was, I mean, in years past, it was always stated in there that a balk is always live in Little League baseball, because they didn't want to rob little Susie or Johnny from a home run because the pitcher did something wrong. It didn't do it, he or she didn't do it wrong enough to mess the batter up. But now it has a differentiation, but it still is, the ball is alive, or it could be dead, or, you know, instantaneously. Last thing, I know that everybody that's on tonight, I'm sorry guys, I'm in my office in the fire station. Everybody that's on tonight from the central region probably knows George Glick. Mr. Glick is the UIC for the Junior League World Series in Taylor, Michigan. And you know, this is how important that everybody just kind of blows balks off. And you know, they say that you know, you have two different theories out there, two different thought processes. You have the umpire that you know, puts notches on their belt every time they call a balk. That, you know, that the big thing for them is, I'm going to go out every game and you know, see how many balks I can call. And really, that's a terrible attitude, or a terrible philosophy to take, because we could probably call you know, something illegal or you know, something not right on every pitch, every play for the most part. But in reference to George, when he does his umpire training at the tournament that week, and even when in Fort Wayne, when he did the regional Central Region tournament, the last thing he left the umpires all with were, I don't want to see or hear any, and he used CSBs, but tonight we're going to keep it family oriented. It's chicken crap balks. And really what he meant by that was, get the train wrecks and leave the fender benders alone. You know, we talk about, did he flinch his knee, or did he you know, look over his shoulder, or did he turn his shoulders to look at first base or third base, you know, in a you know, in those situations. You know, leave those things alone. Get the big one, get the ones where they're straddling. You know, what is probably one of the most common balks that we're going to have, especially with the littler divisions, are littler divisions of talking about intermediate, excuse me, and juniors, is that they blow through stop signs. We remember, by rule, we have to have a discernible stop from the stretch position. And we have, you know, these young ball players that, you know, sometimes get excited. They want to get that pitch in there, and they blow through the stop sign. There's no pause, there's no hesitation at all. So those are obvious. You have to get those. But again, the twitch of the knee or the little, I guess, like Seth said earlier, if it fools me, it's probably going to fool the runner or runners. The other thing is read the runners. If, you say that was a balk, but it didn't have any effect on a play, did it violate the rule? No. If the runner didn't dive back to the base or have to try and scramble to get back to the base because of the pitcher's movement, then it probably wasn't big enough to really call in the first place. And that's what make it be there is. Again, make it be there. Don't, if you have to guess or ask yourself 2 or 3 times, boy, did I just miss a balk? Was that a balk? Probably wasn't enough to call. By rule, maybe it was a balk, but was it enough to really call a balk? Did it have an effect on the play? Going back to the theory that we talked about a couple slides ago. With that, thank you, Seth.
Absolutely. A couple things I wanted to touch on before we move on. As Rick and Jamie both mentioned, balks and illegal pitches are option plays. We talked about option plays a few weeks ago in the interference segment with catcher's interference. This is yet another option scenario, which is why balks are delayed dead ball in Little League. If there's an opportunity for the offense to get a bit of an advantage by knowing that they have an option to take the run that they scored, we want to again not tell them what their option is, but try to get them to understand that, hey, there's something they can do here, and make them ask the question. Important to know that you have an option here. And then the other thing Jamie just said that I thought is 100% spot on. If the pitcher makes a move that is illegal and it puts runners in jeopardy, your hands are tied. You have to call the balk because you have to protect those runners. That's the purpose of the balk rule, is to protect the runners from stuff like that. But if they make a move that may or may not be illegal in the rules and nobody's fooled, the runners are all staying still or whatever, maybe let it go. We don't need to nitpick these things. Like Jamie said, let the kids play. DJ, any questions there for Jamie?
Nope, I think we're all good on the chat.
All right. Let's see. Do we want to go ahead and Greg and Michelle, if you guys are ready, we'll just go ahead and roll on this one. We'll take a break after this before we get into batting out of turn. So Greg and Michelle, it's all you. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I said you want to go ahead and flip for me then. All right, so we're going to talk about some softball pitching regulations. Oh, my favorite thing to talk about, illegal pitches and softball pitching. We have this conversation all the time before we get started when we see everyone that comes down to Central Region, because a lot of times we don't call the illegal pitches as we should, and we really try to put an emphasis on that when we get down to the region, and we let the coaches and everything know too that when we see these illegal pitches, we're going to call it. We'll start real quick with regulation. With pitchers, any player on the team can pitch. There are a couple of exceptions. A player who has reached the age of 12 is not eligible to pitch in the minor leagues. The local board can prohibit 15-year-olds from pitching in the junior division. That is up to your local board, though. In Little League division and minor division, a player may pitch in a maximum of 12 innings in a game. If a player pitches in 7 or more innings in a day, 1 calendar day of rest is mandatory. The delivery of a single pitch constitutes having pitched an inning. So if they're going to go and throw 1 pitch, you might as well go ahead and let them, pitch the remainder of the inning. Go ahead and next, Seth. Regulation 4 continued. A pitcher in the game, but moving to a different position can return as a pitcher anytime in the remainder of the game, but only one time in the same inning that she was removed. So this was a little bit different than baseball, if you recall. Once they're out, they're out. With the exception of the junior and senior league, a pitcher can be withdrawn from the game offensively or defensively and return as a pitcher once per inning, provided the return does not violate substitution rules. So then we also have major, junior, senior, big league. No more than 5 pitchers per team shall be used in one game, with the exception if there's illness or injury to a 5th pitcher. Of course, we're going to need to grab another additional pitcher. That is regular season only. Any violation of any section of this regulation can result in protest. So we always want to try to avoid protest. And, if the coaches, I really like to try to, give them a little bit of help. That's the beauty of when you're doing this at your local league, you can help them out a little bit. If they're about to do something wrong, I always remind them, are you sure you want to take them out of the game? Because, if you take them out of the game, you can't put them back in. Just a little bit of preventative officiating there goes a long way. A little bit of a chart here on how many days of rest somebody needs. For example, if they pitched on Friday and they pitched 7 or more innings, then they can't pitch again until Sunday. And that is located in your rule book if you like to refer to this column, this chart.
Michelle, I
Yes.
just saw a chat, or just saw a question pop up. I believe it's
Sure.
back to balks, but there was a question in regards to a manager option on a balk, and I feel like it's important. Want to make sure we don't get too far away from that.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Go right ahead. Jump back in. If you guys need to talk about box, you can go ahead and go back.
Go ahead, Sethi or Jamie.
I don't see the question.
It was a direct message to me. There is a manager option on a balk. That's the question.
Yeah. So again, basically what the option here is just like in catcher's interference. So say the pitcher commits a balk and it is called by the umpire or umpires. The batter hits a ground ball to the infield and is retired on the throw to first base. But on the same play, the runner on third scored on the play. The manager of the offense has the option to either enforce the balk or take the result of the play. Now, it's a little bit different with the balk because with the balk, you're going to keep the batter at bat and then you'll score the run, obviously, if you enforce the balk. But they could take the result of the play if they, so chose to. Again, it's harder to think of scenarios off the top of my head to where it would be more advantageous to not enforce the balk just because there is a base there. But it is absolutely an option play. And I cannot remember the scenario when I was managing a team. There was a balk called that I did not take my option on because I didn't realize that I had an option on it, and I should have taken the option on the play. And I didn't. So, lesson to coaches and managers out there, know when you have your options and know when it's advantageous to take them. But yes, balk is absolutely an option play. Any call that is a delayed dead ball, for the most part, will be an option play, except for obstruction, obviously. So, but yes, it is an option play.
There you go, Michelle. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. We're going to move past this one. We're going to go to the next one. Junior, senior, and big league, there are no pitching restrictions. The local board of directors or your district can impose any additional pitching limitations during the regular season and interleague. I know that there are some leagues out there that will require, we did this a little bit around here when my daughters were playing, that you would only be able to use a pitcher 1 or 2 times when you were playing different interleague games. So they just had some special rules, just, anything that, how would you say, enhances the rule, doesn't detract from the rule. So it has to stay with that. So we're gonna go to the next slide. Pitching restrictions for 12-year-olds participating in major and junior league games. So if you have a 12-year-old participating in the major and junior league division, it's permitted under Regulation 4. These pitching rules and regulations regarding days of rest that are pertinent to the division in which the pitcher is used will apply to that game. Innings pitched previously in both divisions are taken into account when determining the eligibility of a pitcher for a particular game with respect to days rest and number of innings available. So have an example next that will kind of help explain this a little bit. So if a player pitches 7 innings in a junior league division game on Sunday, and on Monday she has a game in the major league division, she would not be eligible to pitch in that game because the major division regulations require her to have 1 day rest as a result of pitching more than 6 innings the previous day. So whatever the regulations are in the division that you're going to play in, that is the day's rest that you are going to have to adhere to. So, pitching distances, still minors are at 35 feet, majors are at 40 feet, junior, senior, we don't have big league anymore, but juniors and seniors, 43 feet. So there are, sorry about that, Greg, thank you. There are 22 pitching rules. If you go to rule 8, they go A through B. So we're going to cover, there's just a couple that are most often misunderstood. One in particular. So we're going to go on to the one that is newer and it is a little bit more difficult. You know, we have girls that say that they've, you know, have pitched all year and they, you know, they've done this all year and it's not been a problem. And that's just because the umpires are just not either seeing or recalling that, you know, we have a little bit of new pitching rules for the girls. So a backward step can be taken before or simultaneously with the hands being brought together. The pivot foot must remain in contact with the pitching plate at all times prior to the forward step. So this is something that has just come into play very recently, and it's difficult for some of the girls that are taking a step back because they are doing it while their hands, they've already brought their hands together and then they're taking a step back. So it has to be simultaneously. So as they're bringing their hands together, they can take a step back. So if the hands are together while in the pitching position, the pitcher cannot take a step back with their non-pivot foot. So what we'll see most of the time, you have, it's like a 50-50. You will have 50% of the girls that start on the pitching rubber and then automatically come forward with their pitch. And then you have some of your pitchers that are a little bit, I only say this just weaker is what it is. And the step back provides them a little bit more momentum to get going with their pitch. That's why Little League allows the step back, you know, kind of for development. And so the girls are, the issue is that they can't have their hands together and take a step back, but they can simultaneously start that step back and bring their hands together. So this is the most difficult recent rule change that we've had lately that some of the girls are having a real hard time with. So next. So for the pitcher to be able to remove herself from the pitching position, there are 2 ways. Before the hands have been brought together, the pitcher can step back from the pitcher's plate with either foot. So when we say either foot, it's either, you know, if they're right-handed or left-handed, either foot can come off the plate first. After their hands have been brought together, but before they started their pitch, they must legally step back with the pivot foot. I know this is a lot of rules here, but generally they do a really good job. So there are 4 kinds of illegal pitches that we will talk about. These are the 4 that you will see. The leap by far is what we see the most. Leaping is an act by the pitcher when both feet become airborne on the initial move and push from the pitcher's plate. So we always talk to the pitchers about at least drag your foot, at least point your toe. So when they come forward off the plate, they're not going straight up in the air and your base umpires see air underneath their feet. or they come off the pitching rubber and they don't point their toe and they're flat-footed. And again, you see air underneath their foot. This rule is going to go by the wayside very soon because in college, leaping is now legal. So I see that it's probably going to trickle down within the next year or two to us. And, you know, that's one thing off our plate that we won't have to worry about anymore, thankfully. A crow hop is defined as the act of a pitcher who steps, hops, or drags off the front of the pitcher's plate, replants her pivot foot, establishing a second starting point, and then pushes off from the newly established starting point and completes the delivery. So basically what they're doing is kind of sliding forward and giving themselves about another 2 or 3 feet, replanting and then pushing off from there. This is very obvious from base umpires can see a leap, crow hop, base umpires can see. These are the 2 main calls for base umpires. Your home plate umpire could possibly see this, but it's not really his call to make because you don't have a really good angle at something like this coming forward unless it's like really, really blatant. So we're gonna leave these 2 calls to your base umpires. It's a little difficult to see something like crow hop and a leap when it's coming straight at you because if they start making drag marks and they have a whole, big hole in front of the plate, if the, girls start to at least point their toe, then I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But it's really difficult to see a leap or a crow hop from behind the plate. The one that you are going to call from behind the plate, that is a little difficult for the base umpires to see. That's the 24-inch violation. So the 24-inch violation is obviously that is the width of your pitching rubber. So the back or non-pivot foot must begin within or partially within the 24 inches of the pitcher's plate and land within or partially within the 24 inch width of the pitcher's plate. So you'll have to, you'll see some of the college games have the lines drawn. We don't do that yet. You just kind of have to envision 2 straight lines at the end of the pitcher's plate coming straight to home plate. And then you'll be able to see whether someone is outside the 24. When these things happen, it is just like, you're just like, holy crap, did she really just do that? They are very, very, very obvious. If you have to take time to like really think about it, like, maybe she did it. I don't know. I'll watch again. Or, maybe did she really? It kind of like the Buck situation. You really have to see this to call it. It's really kind of going to jump out at you and you're going to be like, holy crap, I can't believe she just did that. So those are the kind of illegal pitches that we are going to call the ones that are, it's really super obvious. We're not just going to start digging for like, oh my gosh, I think there's like a half a centimeter or light underneath their toe on that, 1 out of 10 pitches. When they're illegal, they are illegal almost every time. And it's so difficult for them to fix. So as an umpire, when I am watching pitchers warm up before the start of a game, if I'm the base umpire and I'm watching warm-ups, even if I am watching somebody warm up in a bullpen, what they do when they're relaxed and when they're not in a game is what they're going to do in a game. And when they try really hard to correct it, give them 3 or 4 pitches and they're just going to go right back into muscle memory and still be illegal. So if I see them pitching illegally when they're warming up, I will kind of walk over and say, hey, I'm going to need you to do a better job of pointing your toe. I'm going to need you to do a better job of dragging your foot. Any of the little things that I see beforehand, and I'll give them the opportunity to, try and fix it before the game starts. I don't want to watch them do this like illegal over and over again during warmups and then bang them on the first pitch. It's just a little preventative umpiring if you try to get them situated before the game starts. When we start to call illegal pitches, we're going to call them, if we need to, from the first pitch, from the second pitch, from the first inning, the second inning. We are not going to wait until, team A is down by 6 runs in the 5th inning. And then we're going to start listening to the coach complain, it's illegal. And then we're going to start calling illegal pitches in the 5th inning. If it wasn't illegal in 1 through 4, you don't start calling it now. So that's why I tell when, we sit and talk with our umpires, we're like, get it early, get it often, make them fix it, do it in the beginning. Sometimes it puts girls out of the game because they just can't get it fixed, but we just can't let it keep going.
So in your opinion, there's a question here. In your opinion, is it hard for the home plate umpire to see the leap?
It is. It's difficult. It is very difficult for them to see. It's a lot easier for your base umpires to see because you have a good angle across the field to be able to see that. And that's what you're watching. If you don't have any runners on, you're watching your pitcher for any of the leaps, any of the crow hops. That's what you're watching for. Greg, can you go ahead and take, we need to go back one step because we didn't grab on double touch. Greg, can you take that one and then we'll take the video?
Sure. The double touch is when a pitcher must assume the pitching position with the ball in either hand with the hands separated. Then steps on the pitcher's plate with the hands together. Stepping on the pitching plate with your hands together is a violation. So once your hands are together and you're on the pitcher's plate, if you separate them and put them back together, that is a double touch. That is, we saw it in the Little League Softball World Series last year where we had a 4-umpire system and the umpire at second base called it because the second base umpire is kind of behind the pitcher. I don't think the second base umpire has the best look at that necessarily. I really think the double touch should be left to the responsibility of the home plate umpire. When you separate your hands at any time, it must be simulations with starting the pitch or it is a violation. After separating your hands and starting your motion, it is a violation if you make a second touch as part of your delivery. That is an illegal pitch. That is a fairly common illegal pitch. That's what I've got on double touch.
Yeah, I'll just add another, something to double touch. Something that you'll see a lot because the girls wear the face mask, they're going to step onto the pitching rubber and they will have their hands together, ball in the mid or ball in hand, their hands are together. Then all of a sudden a nice little wind comes by and they had to fix their hair or fix their mask and then they come back and then they pitch. Unfortunately, that's illegal because they have now double touched. They have separated their hands and as soon as they separate, that's the beginning of your pitch. You have to go forward. So they can't touch their mask or touch their hand so you'll see that a lot and you'll see that a lot around the age of 9, 10, 11. And yes, I see the question to clarify an illegal pitch, double touch, any of the legal pitches, it is a ball to the batter unless, we have a play. So it is like a delayed dead ball. So we got to see what happens because you'll see a lot of the younger girls, again, like 9, 10, 11, 12, even around 13, that as soon as, you hear someone say illegal or that's illegal, they freeze and they stop. Once they get a little bit older with the leap and, with the 24-inch violation, that is something that they've already pitched. So they don't stop. They're being taught now to, continue on with the pitch. So you're going to have to wait to see the outcome and either, if everybody reaches base safely and everybody moves one base safely, then we're not going to talk about the illegal pitch. But, if we have a strike to the batter, we got to go back and that's an illegal pitch, ball to the batter, turn around and make sure that you correct your scorekeepers and everyone behind you. You gotta need to do it a little bit louder so that, a lot of stuff is kind of going on. So if you have a third base umpire or, your first base umpire calling a legal pitch, your plate umpire is concentrating on, calling the pitch. So a lot of times nobody hears you. So you have to, make sure that you say it loud enough so that, we're hearing it. And then we have to figure out what's going to happen after, unless everybody moves forward safely one base. So we have a couple of videos to show. This video was from last year, I think. So this is the step back that we were talking about, the illegal step back. So we'll let it play a couple times and then we can talk about it. You'll see that she freezes and doesn't throw a ball, or doesn't throw the pitch. So somebody yells illegal, right then, and she gets a little startled and doesn't throw the ball. So what she does is, she had stepped on and her hands were together, and it wasn't simultaneously that she was taking her step back. Her hands were already together, and then she was going to take a step back. So we'll watch it one more time here. Hands are together. Ooh.
Of course, now we're gonna have problems with it.
You can do it, Little League.
Just simulate it in your living room.
Yeah, I cannot do that. I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Right, here we go.
We'll try
So
this.
she is going to step on and her hands will be together. If she wanted to take a step, she had to do it simultaneously as her hands are coming together. So that's just one of the toughest ones that these girls are having a real hard time with. It's only like 50% of them, because the other 50s, start and go forward. They don't step back. So. And then again, she doesn't throw the ball, so ball to the batter. All right, next one, we have an outside the 24 violation. This is the one that the home plate umpire is going to call all the time. So what she does is you'll see her, that would be her left foot outside the width of the 24-inch plate there. And it's kind of a giveaway when they start that far outside off of the rubber, when they're not anywhere near the center.
I don't know why it's doing this. I just want to pause. You can see how far she is right here. There's the
It
other end
starts
of the plate.
way over at the side. So that's usually your first giveaway, that she is going to throw either a curve or a screwball. And that's usually the ones that they are way outside on, because they want their body momentum to get that spin on the ball. And she's like way out there with her left foot. So if you are not sure, if you see you're not sure as a plate umpire, because just sometimes you're nervous and you're not paying attention to that. Your base umpire, when he comes to do the softball thing of sweeping our little plate in between innings, you can see that her footprint is way outside that 24-inch. Very nice that it comes out to offer her an explanation and everything. So coach, you usually want to come out at that time to want to know what you guys are talking about. This one, Seth, I didn't get a label on, so if you can.
I think this is a leap.
Okay, walk us through this one a little bit.
Yeah. So again, all these were from the regional tournament this past year. And I had to watch this one a couple times to make sure I knew what I was looking at. But you're going to see her, and I'll try to pause it at the right time, and we'll be able to see her feet. And it didn't let me pause. Let's try again. You can kind of see her lift her foot right there. And, again, issue with our umpiring crew here is we've really got to take the stage here. Everybody in this area is looking very confused as to what just happened. See if I can get it. Yeah, it's not going to let me.
Yeah, some of these are a little hard to stop on a dime here.
I don't know why. I think it's because they're not from YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see her lift her foot.
So you see her lift her back foot like that. We've had up kind of where we are at in our northern Illinois area here, or Indiana area here, we've had a pitcher kind of in her area that had these back foot issues. She would kick that back foot off the rubber and it would fly high in the air, and she'd be flat footed like this one was. If this one would just at least kind of point to toe, I would be okay with that, because she's attempting to make that drag. But this one, it's just that back foot's flying up in the air and letting it go. So we have to get these early. We have to get them taught that they have to, get that drag going, and then we're not going to worry about it after a year or so here. But yeah, we're going to, up until they make this change, we're going to have to start, making sure that we're all on the same page with the legal pitches. Inevitably, every year, you know, we have a team that has issues. We have a team that gets to the central region that has issues with illegal pitching. You know, we talk to coaches and say, you know, if you think you have a problem, you know, let us know. We'll come to one of your practices. We'll take a look. We'll help you out. But inevitably, they'll always say, we made it through the state tournament and we made it through the division and we made it through the section and nobody ever said a word. And we get here and all of a sudden she's illegal. And that's what we're really trying to prevent. We're trying to, you know, prevent this at the district level and prevent it at the state level so that when they do get to a regional or a World Series, you know, it's a lot of pressure in itself to get to that level and then to be banged like this over and over and over again. It's just tough. So, you know, we need to do, everybody needs to do each other a favor and get this early. So I think we have one more video.
Yep.
Or two. So yeah, this one is a good example of a crow hop. This is which is the replant is, this is, we're gonna let it run through one time and then actually there is an explanation on this one. And so what she is doing is sliding forward off the pitching plate and reestablishing a second position to push off from. So she's
You
coming
see the gap
forward
right
and
there.
not anywhere, you know, in contact with. So that gives her at least another foot and, you know, before she starts to come up and in, you know, it's an advantage that they're getting at, you know, at this level, it's 40 feet. And some of these girls are pretty darn good at 40 feet. That's giving them this advantage of another extra, at least 3 or 4 feet. That ball, you know, can start to move. So that is the crow hop. Again, that is something that is going to come from your base umpires.
Okay, do we have any questions in the chat, DJ? I have one, but I want to make sure we get everything else before I address my question.
No, I think we are good. Yes.
Okay, so I got a direct question and it's a very, very good question and I wanted to hit it sort of right here before we take the break. So the question was, why can a softball pitch from 35 feet, but we can't get a waiver for a 7 to 8 year old baseball players to pitch from 35 feet? So I'm going to preface this by saying this is way above my pay grade. So do not take what I'm saying as rule of law because I'm not probably 100% qualified to give a direct answer. However, I can give a guess as to why I think it is. And I think the issue is basically because of the bats. So in baseball, the ball is going to come off of the bat a lot hotter or faster than it is in softball. So by moving those younger players closer, which is 11 feet closer, you know, mind you, in softball, it's only 5 feet closer. In baseball, it's a full 11 feet. So that is, you know, almost, that's just under, you know, just under a quarter of the distance, if I'm doing my math correctly, which is another issue in and of itself. But you're moving a full 11 feet up and the ball is going to come off the bat at a hotter rate. And I get that we're talking about 7 and 8 year olds here, but just because of how the bats are constructed, baseball bats tend to be a lot hotter than softball bats. And Michelle, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I do believe that's the way it is.
Yes.
It's the difference between the BPF standard and the USA baseball standard. So I am going to wager to say that is probably the reason why, is because those balls are coming off of the bats faster, and 7 and 8 year olds probably don't have the reaction time that other, you know, older kids will. So again, you know, I'm not saying that is 100% the answer because again, it's not my job to approve these waivers. I am just giving my best guess as to why that those waivers are getting denied. And I'm going to guess that's probably the reason. Instructor staff, if you think of anything else, go ahead and jump in now, but I think I pretty much hit it.
I do think that's a good question for the Central Region headquarters or Williamsport, probably. Like you said, that's probably a little bit above our pay grade there. They make the big bucks. It's a great question, by the way.
Yes,
You know that,
fantastic question.
Yeah, that they're always going to err on the side of caution and safety. So if it, if they- like, Seth's explanation or assumption, they're always gonna, err on the side of caution. So any possibility of anyone's gonna get hurt or, they're just gonna deny that off the bat, so.
Okay, so if that's it for questions, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. We went a little long in that first segment, but I wanted to hit all the pitching stuff while we were in the pitching mindset. So I've got 8:15 on my clock. We'll come back at 8:20. We'll finish up with batting out of turn. It shouldn't take that long, but go ahead and take a break, go get some water, use the restroom. We'll come back in 5 minutes and we'll get to batting out of turn. So 8:20. See everybody then. All right, it's 8:21, so we are going to go ahead and continue on here. We're gonna finish up the night with batting out of turn. Like I said, shouldn't take too long, and then we'll be on our way. So I'm gonna go ahead and take batting out of turn, and we'll finish up the night here. So batting out of turn, there's a couple terms that we need to know for batting out of turn, and my goal for this section of the presentation was to sort of unmuddy the waters, if you will, of batting out of turn, because batting out of turn is a very wordy rule. And if you don't exactly know how or what or how to interpret things, it can really be a confusing rule to try to unpack. So my goal is to make it as least as confusing as possible, and make sure everybody here has the tools to one, know how to recognize batting out of order and what should happen, and then as well as the umpires, this way they can simplify it for them, and be able to solve this problem if it comes up in one of their games. So we got some terms to know for batting out of turn. So term number one, I want everybody to remember and commit to memory is proper batter, or the PB. As we go through these slides, I'm going to use PB instead of proper batter just to save on some space. So PB, proper batter, this is who should have been or should be at bat right now, or after somebody had just gotten a hit. And this will be further explained as we get through this, but proper batter, who should be or who should have been at bat. And we also want to know who the improper batter was, or the IB. And this is who was at bat out of turn. So proper batter, who should have hit; improper batter, who did hit. And then the last thing we need to know is the term legalized. The definition of the term legalized is basically when an improper batter's actions are made legal because of a pitch, play, or attempted play. So those are 3 terms that we need to commit to memory: proper batter, improper batter, and legalized. Guiding principles. So again, the batting out of turn rule is very thick and wordy, and I did not want to type it out here and try to explain the wordiness of batting out of turn. So what I've done is, if you have your rulebook app or your rulebook handy, I want you to go to page 2, Rule 607, batting out of turn, and we'll give you the actual words there, so you can read those while I'm discussing these. But basically what I'm providing here is a summary or interpretation of what the written rule says. So if you go to Rule 607, 607A, okay, 607A, the whole point of 607A is to note that if you have a case of improper batting out of turn, and you're going to call somebody out, it is always the proper batter that is called out, no matter what. If you're going to call somebody out for batting out of turn, it's always going to be the improper batter. If an improper batter hits and gets on base, the proper batter is going to be called out. The second part of A is discussing what happens if the improper batter does not bat or reach base, and it's identified while the improper batter is still in the box. The proper batter is going to take the place of the improper batter, and they're going to assume the improper batter's count. So if the improper batter's in the box, they take 2 balls and a strike, and then the offensive coach says, oh wait, we're batting out of turn. All we're going to do is we're going to take whoever should be at bat, our proper batter, put them in the box, and now they have a 2-1 count. So letter A of batting out of turn. If you're going to call somebody out, it's the proper batter. If the improper batter is still at bat, you're simply going to put the proper batter in the batter's box with the improper batter's count. Second part of this rule is B. If the improper batter is retired or becomes a runner. So this is the improper batter has hit the ball, put the ball in play, or they've struck out or whatever. And the appeal is made before the next pitch, play, or attempted play. So again, we have a proper batter that's either struck out or has put the ball in play. The proper batter is out. Remember, according to letter A, you're going to call the proper batter out. Proper batter's out, and the results of the improper batter's time at bat are nullified. So, improper batter hits a sac fly to right field and scores the runner on third. Defense comes and appeals, says, hey, they batted out of order. We're going to call the proper batter out, and anything that was a result of the improper batter's time at bat are nullified. Well, what were those results? We had an out because of the sac fly that the improper batter hit, and we had a run score because of the sac fly that the improper batter hit. So we're going to nullify those. Runner's going to go back to third. That out's going to come off the board. And then we're going to call the proper batter out for batting out of turn. Letter C. If the improper batter is retired or becomes a runner and no appeal is made before the next pitch. So B talks about if we have a proper appeal for batting out of turn. Letter C is if we do not have that appeal for batting out of turn. The improper batter becomes the proper batter, and the results of the improper batter's time at bat are legalized. Talked about legalized. So this is improper batter hits a double. The next batter comes up and takes a strike. Now, whoever is standing on second, that was the improper batter, their time at bat becomes legal. They were a proper batter during their time at bat. So that's a good segue into D, right? So when we get to D, they kind of, C and D kind of go hand in hand. So improper batter reaches second base. It's not appealed. They are now had a legal time at bat. And then D is basically the next batter, whoever follows the proper batter in the order, is who comes up next. So if we call the proper batter out, it kind of goes back to B, but you can put it with C as well. So if the proper batter is called out, the next batter is whoever follows the proper batter in the order. Okay. The improper batter, if the improper batter was legalized, which is what we had in C, the next batter is whoever follows the improper batter, now the proper batter in the order. So let's unmuddy this. If we call the proper batter out for batting out of turn, say the person, the batter in the 4 slot was called out for batting out of turn. The next batter is going to be whoever followed them, which would be the 5 hole. So the whoever's in the 5 hole should be coming up to bat next. If the improper batter is legalized, which is what we just talked about in C, the next batter is whoever follows the improper batter, who is now the proper batter. So again, we go back to our situation. If the improper batter was 6 and their actions were legalized, they're now the PB. So batter 7 should follow the improper batter if their actions are legalized. Okay. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this. I encourage you to. It's basically a summary of what the wordiness of batting out of turn says. So we're going to go into some situations after this, and we're going to use these terms, and we're going to basically deduce and untie the batting out of order situation. So A is saying you're going to call the proper batter out unless the batting out of turn was discovered while they're in the box. If the improper batter strikes out or puts the ball in play and an appeal is made, you're going to call the proper batter out, as we said in A, and then the results of the improper batter's time at bat are nullified. I'm going to take those off the board. C, if the improper batter strikes out or becomes a runner and there's no appeal made, they have become the proper batter and they were legalized. So their time at bat is legal by rule. And then D is just saying, basically defining who the next batter is. It's either going to be the person that followed the proper batter we called out, or it's going to be the person that followed the legalized improper batter. Do we have any questions on that before we get to situations? Any questions on basically the words of batting out of turn before we actually get to some situations? I don't see any in the chat.
Chat is clear.
Cool. All right, let's get to some situations here. Here's our batting order. This is what it says in the book, and this is what we're going to go with. Abel, Baker, Charles, Daniel, Edward, Frank, George, Henry, Irwin. So here's our first situation. It's the first pitch of the game, which tells us that Abel should be our proper batter. Baker bats. With the count 2-1, A, the offensive team appeals, or B, the defensive team appeals. Give everybody a second to think about this. How would we solve this? Going back to our guiding principles, slide on what we just discussed. So give everybody a couple seconds. Okay. So the answer for both is Abel is going to replace Baker with a 2-1 count. So the purpose of this situation is to note that batting out of turn can be caught by either team. There are some codes where only the defense is allowed to appeal batting out of turn. Little League is not one of those codes. Either team can catch this. So if you're on offense and you see you're batting out of turn, it's better to get it while they're still in the box because you're not going to get an out called. If you're on defense, it's better to wait until you see what happens because you might be able to get an out. So in both scenarios here, Abel is going to replace Baker with a 2-1 count. Baker was our improper batter. Abel's our proper batter. Remember, we're not calling the proper batter out because the improper batter was discovered while they were still at bat. So we're just going to simply put the proper batter in the box with the count that the improper batter had. Same batting order, new situation. It's first pitch of the game again. Baker bats and doubles. The defensive team appeals A immediately or B after a pitch to Charles. Take a few seconds and we'll get to this one. Okay, so in regards to A, if the defensive team appeals immediately, Abel is going to be called out and Baker is going to be the proper batter. Let's go back to our guiding principles. Who was the proper batter? Who should have hit? Well, that's Abel. Who was the improper batter? Well, that's Baker. Okay, so we had an improper batter that put the ball in play, and we had results of an improper time at bat. The defensive team appealed immediately. Okay, nothing on Baker was legalized, so we're going to nullify the results of the improper batter's time at bat. We're going to take Baker off of second base because that's a result. And then we're going to call the proper batter, Abel, we're going to call them out. So Abel's out, Baker's results are going to be nullified. And then according to D, whoever follows the proper batter is the next batter at bat. That would be Baker because he is the second batter in the lineup after Abel. So Abel's going to be called out. Baker's going to be the proper batter. After a pitch to Charles. So Baker's going to stay on second base and Charles is going to be the proper batter. Why? We have Baker, improper batter. They appealed after a pitch to Charles. Remember, if it's appealed after a pitch, play, or attempted play, the improper batter's time at bat is going to be legalized. So Baker's double is now legal, and whoever follows Baker in the batting order is now the next proper batter, which would be Charles. So Abel has just missed his time at bat. Clear as mud. Let's move on to our last one here. Same batting order. Oh no, we have two more. Abel walks, Baker walks, Charles forces Baker. Let's take a recap of what happened. Abel's on first base from a walk. Baker is on first base from a walk, which forces Abel to second base. So we have runner on first and second now. Charles is going to force Baker. Charles hits a ground ball to the infield, forces Baker out at second base. Abel is on third base. Charles is on first base. Edward bats in Daniel's turn. During Edward's at bat, Abel scores and Charles goes to second on a wild pitch. Then Edward grounds out, sending Charles to third base. The defensive team appeals A immediately or B after a pitch to Daniel. I'll give you a little bit of extra time to sort this one out, because this is a wordy one. Okay, let's sort this one out. So let's talk about result A first. So Abel's run is going to count and Charles is entitled to second base because these advances were not the result of Edward's time at bat. It was a wild pitch. It was nothing that Edward did to cause these advances. These would have happened regardless if it was a proper or improper batter at bat. So those advances are okay. But Charles is going to have to return to second because his advance to third was a result of Edward's time at bat. Remember, Edward grounded out that got Charles to third base. Edward was an improper batter. So Charles is going to have to return to second. We're going to nullify that result. And Daniel is going to be called out because remember, Daniel was a proper batter. So let's think about this. We've got Abel, bats proper. Baker, bats proper. Charles, bats proper. Edward, bats improper. We're going to nullify Edward's result, which was Charles's advance to third and Edward's out on the bases. Since it was appealed before a pitch player attempted play, Daniel is going to be called out on batting out of turn because he was the proper batter. So Daniel is out. And since we called him out, the next proper batter would be whoever follows Daniel, which was Edward. So to recap this, you've got a run and an advance to second base. We're good because it wasn't an improper batter. Everything that followed after that was because of an improper batter. So we're going to enforce our batting out of turn penalty. Situation B here, after a pitch to Daniel. So now Daniel came up to the plate and took a pitch. What does that do? Well, Abel's run's going to count, as we already talked about. Charles is going to get to stay on third because now the batting out of turn was not properly appealed. So Edward's time at bat is going to be legalized. So Charles is going to get to stay on third, and that out's going to stand. And now the proper batter is Frank. But remember, Daniel took a pitch. So now they're out of order again because Frank should be up. So now, since they appealed after a pitch to Daniel, you say, okay, they batted out of turn. Edward was legalized. So what do? Well, we have an improper batter now in the box in Daniel because Frank should be up. So we're going to put Frank in the box with whatever count Daniel had. If it was a ball, it's going to be 1-0. If it was a strike, it's going to be 0-1. Last situation here. And it's not really a situation, it's just a question. What happens if the proper batter is on base when you need to place them in the box? So let's say that because of someone has pointed out batting out of order and we've gotten to a turn where we have to put Daniel into the batter's box, but Daniel's standing on second base. What do we do? The answer is pretty simple. We're going to keep following the batting order until we reach someone who is not on base. So going back to what I just laid out, if we come to rule where Daniel's on second base, not because of the result of an improper batter, but because of a legal situation or a legalized situation, and we have to put Daniel on up to bat, but we cannot. We're just going to keep following the batting order. So we would skip Daniel and we would go to Edward. If Edward's also on base, we're going to go to Frank. We're just going to keep following that batting order until we get to someone who is a proper batter and is not on base. That's all I have. I'm going to go back to the guiding principle slide. DJ, do we have any questions on batting out of turn?
In answer B, since this is an appeal situation, do you tell anyone that Frank is the proper batter or allow Daniel to continue to bat?
Which scenario? Which situation was that? I see it, Bob. Which situation was that? Was it this situation? I think it was this one. Yeah. Okay. So in answer B, since this is an appeal situation, do you tell anyone that Frank is the proper batter or allow Daniel to continue to bat? So in answer B, so remember the defensive team has appealed after a pitch to Daniel. So they have brought the batting out of turn to the umpire's attention. So now we have to fix it because they are appealing batting out of turn. So if I'm the umpire in this situation and Daniel takes a strike and then they say, hey, whoa, they batted out of turn, I'll say, okay, we'll get the books together, or I'll pull my lineup card out. We'll double check. Yep, they batted out of turn. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, Edwards' time at bat was legalized, so I know Frank should be up. So all I'm going to do is say, okay, Frank should be up. Daniel, you're going to go back to the dugout. We're going to bring Frank out here. Frank's got an 0-1 count, a no ball, 1 strike count, and then we're going to go. Once it's brought to the umpire's attention, it's effectively an appeal. Now we have to fix it. I see another one came in there, DJ.
Yes. Any idea when scoring, who gets the put out when a proper batter is called off?
That's a great question. I am not a scoring guru, so I don't know the answer to that. My guess
For some reason, I think it's the catcher.
I believe something if it's like it's the person closest to the batter, so it's usually the catcher in that instance.
That's good to know. A very astute question and a very, very good answer. So give it to F2. If you're in doubt and you don't know who to give it to, you can probably just put BOO or BOT, and people will understand what you're getting at. Good answers from DJ and Rick there, though. Excellent job. Any other questions on batting out of turn? Here's our guiding principle slide up again. Remember, the biggest thing I want to reiterate is, we're going to go back one more slide. The biggest thing I want to reiterate is you got to know 3 things. You have to know who the proper batter was, or the proper batter is. And that's who should be or have been at bat. You've got to know who actually did the hitting or who the improper batter was. And you got to know if anything was legalized. If you know these three things, and you can identify these 3 things when you're approached with a batting out of turn, you will be able to solve any batting out of turn scenario that comes up. It's not as complicated as some people think it is. You just got to know proper batter, improper batter, and legalized, and then follow these guiding principles, and you'll be able to solve it. One thing I want to hit on before we close out is, as a coach or manager, when it comes to batting out of turn, know when and when not to identify it. If I'm the defense and I see they're batting out of turn, I am going to wait until I see what happens with that batter to figure out if I'm going to appeal or not. Because if that batter hits a ground ball and it's an overthrow to first base and they go to second base, time, hey Blue, I think they batted out of turn. We can go to the books. If it's so, you're going to get an out as the defensive manager. If they're batting out of turn and they strike out, I would wait, because you've got an out already on the strikeout. See if they come back up and they're out of turn again. If they're out of turn again, just wait and see what they do. Knowing when and when not to appeal batting out of turn is something that is, I think, gravely miscalculated and misunderstood among coaches and managers. Just wait to see if they get on base. If they do, that's when you appeal it immediately after they get on base. As the offense, remember, Little League is not a code where only the defense can identify this. If you're on offense, make sure you're keeping up with who's in the box, because you want to catch it before they put the ball in play or strike out. Okay? Defense, wait until they get on base. Offense, catch it as soon as you can. That's when you want to appeal batting out of turn as a coach or manager. Anything else before we close out tonight? Anybody on the instructing team? DJ, any questions?
That we had that other
What's-
document, if anybody wanted it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Let me pull that up real quick. So this is a chart that Michelle pulled up. and we'll find a way to send this out to people. This is for softball, and basically this is a handy little chart as to sort of helping you identify and know whether a pitcher was legal or illegal. So we'll just look at the first example here. So where's the ball? The ball is with any other player besides the pitcher. So the pitcher doesn't have the ball. Where are the hands? The hands are either together or apart. Where are the feet? The feet are off the plate in the circle. The pitcher's actions, step on plate, obviously without the ball. What is this? This is an illegal pitch because she stepped on the plate without possession of the ball. And then the rule you'll find that is 801J. So it's kind of a handy little chart to help you, if you saw something in your game and you're like, I don't know if that was legal or illegal, you can come to this chart and try to find, exactly what your criteria was, and it'll point you in the right direction. And it'll even give you a rule citation to let you know where that is. So we will find a way to get this out to people. It may just be, send it on a blast email to everybody that registered, or in this or any other virtual rules scenario or rules seminar. We'll go back to this announcement slide, since I didn't share this at the beginning of the thing because I didn't realize I wasn't sharing. So just to close out, remember we have our new YouTube channel, Central Region Umpire Training and Development. All of our virtual rule seminar replays are going to be posted in a playlist on that channel. And the playlist is going to be called 2022 Central Region Rules Seminars. That's where they're going to be at on that YouTube playlist. And then reminders for upcoming umpire training development. We've got the virtual umpire preparation course, the VUPC. It's going to be a 5-week online course that is now free of charge. It was $50. Now it's free. We're opening it to everybody. Take advantage of it if you can. I think that starts next week. DJ had the links in the chat, so you can follow those links and see when that starts. And then we also have the Central Region Umpire Academy coming up in April 21st to the 24th. It's $300. Get you 4 days of awesome instruction. It gets you some meals, and it gets you a hotel room if you're an out-of-towner. So fantastic value in that. And these go hand in hand. So if you're coming to the academy, you got to be at the prep course. If you just want the prep course, you're not going to do the academy, by all means, you can absolutely do that. Great training opportunities coming up. And we hope to get those nice and filled up. We got a great number for the prep course, I think. Still waiting on some numbers for the Umpire Academy, but we still got some time for that. So that's all I have. Anybody on the instructing team, do you have anything else to add before we get out of here? DJ, do you have anything to add before we get out of here?
No, sir. All good.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to let everybody go. If you came to all 5 of these, thank you so much for taking your time out every week and hanging out with us for a couple hours a night, just talking some rules and getting ready for this upcoming season. So everybody have a good night, and we'll see everybody soon, hopefully, at our trainings. And we are going to cut it loose there. See ya, everybody.